So one thing we often want to do with our interactive flat panel displays, no different on the Clevertouch Pro series we have here, is that whiteboarding. Now you'll typically see on Clevertouch that you'll have two forms of whiteboard. Now the first one can be found as whiteboard, or on some of our models, note. And very quickly, let's cover that off. So what is whiteboard? What is note? So this was always designed and always meant to be a simple way to use the interactive flat panel displays or interactive displays for whiteboarding. It was to replace your dry erase whiteboard in the classroom. It doesn't do anything fancy. It's fairly simplistic to use. It should be a matter of being able to click in there. And for a lot of those teachers who just want a whiteboard, okay, it's very easy. You can use pen or finger, literally with our multiple point touch displays, and we can come up, we can annotate. Along the bottom, we have some very basic tools from things like the pen tool. We can also erase by either drawing around, or if I don't draw around, my beautiful drawing that I've done here today, I can also draw through, or I can use the side of my hand or a larger object to bring up the eraser. Along with that, we have some basic tools, so things like clearing the page. We have 2D and 3D shapes that are available here. We can literally bring onto the page. Now it's also an infinity whiteboard, so what we can do is we can use pinch and gestures to zoom in and out and navigate around the page. If I'd use two fingers to drag that off. And then I have another tool down here which looks like a little hand, so I can actually see then everything that's on that page, and I can zoom in and out to bring them back into view if I need to. Finally, I've got an undo button and a redo button. And down in the bottom left, I do have some additional basic features in our hamburger menu, such as being able to export. If I wanted to then save this as a PDF, an IWB file, I can also bring in PDFs, images, IWBs. And I have some background settings as well, so whether it's simple lined paper or a sports field, along with the color. Finally, in the bottom right hand side, I have the ability to see the pages that I have, add pages, which will end up the same, so it'll automatically replicate those. But the whole idea here is to keep it as simple as humanly possible, just so it is a tool, it's a functional tool for anyone who wants that quick, easy to use whiteboard, doesn't have to undergo any training, doesn't have to learn too much about all the functionality, the tools and features. It is there, it is available to use. But this is the first whiteboard we provide. So using my floating toolbar here again, let's just go back to the home. We're going to spend a little bit more time talking about what we class as our premium whiteboard. So with every Clevertouch device, you will have LYNX Whiteboard. Okay? So it's always included, LYNX Whiteboard. Great thing about LYNX Whiteboard before we even get started is this is completely cross-platform, cloud-based software. So you can log in online through a browser, but you can also install LYNX Whiteboard onto a Windows device, a Mac device. It's available in the Apple Store, it's available in the Play Store. You can install it on lots of different platforms and devices, and we don't limit the amount of installations or licensing for those. Number one. So when we come into LYNX Whiteboard, we're always going to be greeted by this familiar screen. It doesn't matter what device. So I could, for example, walk up to one of our other interactive displays with LYNX Whiteboard. I could click on that icon, I could log in, and I'm going to be met with this same dashboard. That dashboard is going to give me some basic controls, so I can open a new whiteboard. Okay, I've got LYNX Pro in this occasion, which gives me the AI tools, but I can also go to my files. And when you first open or first create your LYNX Whiteboard account, you can also do an organization, so you can share lessons and create a community of the lessons that you have. So you can also create an organization online. But when you first create that account, what you can do is link your files, link your cloud accounts. So I've got my G Drive account, I have some organizations, I have my OneDrive account, I can also add Dropbox, and I have my LYNX Cloud. Within those, you'll see I have a whole wide range of different file types that I can open using LYNX Whiteboard. And this will include things like notebook files if you have existing Smart users, Inspire, IWB files, along with Google Slides, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, pretty much anything outside of videos themselves, you can load into LYNX Whiteboard. So on this occasion, we don't actually need to load anything here. So I'm just going to use the arrow in the bottom left to come back out. And that's going to bring me back to my dashboard. Why do I not need to load anything? I can see that I also have my recent lessons or recent whiteboards that I've had open available to me on the dashboard. On the right hand side, we can see there are a couple of different applications or links through. So we've got our LYNX portal that'll take us through to the web page or the browser site for LYNX Whiteboard. I also have activities and I have LYNX screen recorder. We're going to come back to the activities in a moment. But first of all, we're just going to look at the difference between that basic whiteboard that we looked at previously in comparison to the amazing tools and functionality that's in LYNX Whiteboard. So let's actually open a new whiteboard. And what's interesting is if you watched one of our earlier videos, you'll see that in my first whiteboard is where I got my screen capture. And one of the great things about LYNX Whiteboard is as you open different whiteboards or as you open different file types, you'll have the tabs along the top. Where that can be useful is if you have something like Google Slides. And rather than using the slide app, which is available on the EDLA products, you might find it easier to simply be able to have all of your lessons, all of your Google Slides open very easily along the top with the LYNX Whiteboard. And LYNX Whiteboard is very simple to use, so we can pinch and zoom like we did on the previous whiteboard. But what we're going to see here is with every image we select, so this one for example, we're going to have a lot more tools and features and functionality beneath it. We're going to talk about how that can be used in a moment. But let's go back to our blank whiteboard. So let's talk through the operation and just some of the functionality you can see here. So first of all, we have our toolbox down here, or our pencil case down here in the middle. So the first icon is our hand tool, which will give us the ability to select multiple items on the page, move between page, select different items, and you can see that happening as I press. The next tool is our pen tool, and whereas the other one had maybe one or two options in terms of that pen, typically line, color and thickness, in here we can actually click on that pen once we've moved in, and you'll see straight away we have an eyedropper to pick a color if we're using that as part of a presentation, a color wheel and various colors, line thickness, but also we have multiple pen types. So we have our ink, fine tip, a laser pen, a highlighter. One that was always very popular is something like the animated rainbow. So once I've selected that, I can hit the little X. I could also, if I want to, click the pen again at the bottom and it'll change. So now I have my animated rainbow selected. I can actually draw up on the whiteboard and you'll see that will continue to animate and change colors as it's there. Now the good thing is I also have 3 more pen options which I can configure in advance. So for example, if I wanted one to be an ink, one to be a text and shape recognition, and then finally the eraser at the end there. So now whenever I click these, I don't have to pick the options as I'm going. I can simply move between. So I can now write good morning in my animation. Then I can move over to my fine tip. All right, and then finally, if I wanted to do something like text recognition, I can use my thicker ballpoint pen here and wait a moment for that to convert to text. If I want to add a new page in LYNX Whiteboard, I'm just going to come down to the bottom here and we'll see pages, so I can simply hit new page. And I can see that I can navigate between those 2 pages. Now let's look at text. Again, really nice feature here which you don't have in a lot of those basic whiteboards. So LYNX Whiteboard here, we have 3 different versions of the text. We can pre-configure that when we're setting up our account. So whenever we want, perhaps, let's say with this thicker one here, we can go in, we can change the color for that, and we can see this is our first one. We can change the font and type of writing that is. So let's change that up and make that a little bit different for us. Number 2 is going to be green. Number 3 is going to be orange. And then we also have the option for our handwriting recognition. So I go through there. Now as I want to enter text, you'll see when I click on the T there, all of those have changed for me. And I just tap on the screen and I can type. Moving down the line, we then also have some additional tools. So we have fill tools. We have the ability for a block highlighter. So let's say I want to highlight this green, for example. We have our block highlighter, easy and accessible. And then finally, there's an additional tool, which I'm going to show you how that works in just a moment. So I'm going to add one more page. If we hit the little plus icon here and we wanted to put some basic shapes in, we can see again, very easy from the bottom here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up a circle. And then when I go back to that fill tool, I'll see the one at the options. At the end, we have a grab, and a shape split. Now the shape split can also be very handy if you're doing fractions, percentages, things like that. We can go on to the shape split. We can now actually draw on circles and squares to simply divide that shape. Going back to our hand tool, once we've done that, and we can see how easily it is to divide that shape. So again, let's add a new page. So let's talk about another feature of LYNX Whiteboard, and unfortunately we're not going to be able to cover all of the features today. We're going to cover off a couple of the key ones that are available, and the next one that we're going to talk about there is our content feature. So along the bottom again, and we're still in that whiteboard here, we can just hit on the little plus icon, and you'll see there's a range of content. So there's standard content, media content, shapes, tables, page links, and an AI assistant. Now, we have an option, so LYNX Whiteboard will remain a license-free product, but there is an optional upgrade, which is to take it to LYNX Pro. That brings in a lot of the AI features, so that's things like AI lesson generation, AI media content, a couple of the handwriting and math recognition tools. So simply if we wanted to, we could go into that. LYNX Pro works out approximately $30 per user per year. But if there is a larger rollout of this software, we also are more than happy to negotiate that over a larger district, but that's typically the price we see for that product. Now, if I want to add content, I have a range of different content. So if I just click on the first one here, or the second one, I should say, content, I have the pre-embedded content. So straight away versus that basic whiteboard, we have a whole host of more tools and features. So if we wanted backgrounds, for example, rather than just limited options there, we have lined papers, we have squared papers, we have SWOT analysis. Let's go into a lined paper here. And as we drag them on, not only do we have more options here, but once we actually drag them onto the page, we also have a lot more options in terms of how thick those lines are, how visible they are, if we want to dim them down to make them almost translucent. We can highlight them as well with different, we can change the color of those lines if we need to. We can bring in a whole range of features just as we bring in that background. And then once we go back to our hand tool, that's going to go away and we are ready to grab our pen. Okay, and we can start to write. And again, we can use that animated pen if we want to. And excuse my handwriting, everyone. Now that's some of the backgrounds, for example, but also we have a whole range of tools. So we've got an option for culture. So if you wanted musical notes or musical instruments, we can come through. We can simply drag from the left-hand side. We can resize all of those. And don't forget, this is cloud-based software, meaning that you don't have to be at your interactive flat panel here. You don't have to be at your Clevertouch to design these lessons. You can be doing that on your laptop. You can be doing that at home on an iPad. You can be doing it on a train, on a plane, wherever you feel that you would be able to create some of these activities and lessons. So you can see we've got music in here, we have shapes, we have maths tools if we want interactive tools, so we can drag those on again very easily with the way we drag these across. Things like rolling dice, timers, counters, backgrounds, pretty much you name it and it's already there. But what happens if we don't have a resource in there? Okay, well that's where our media search comes in. So as long as you're signed into your LYNX Whiteboard account, we then have the ability for you to search from Google Images. So I apologize, but we're probably going to do something like cats here because it's what's coming to mind. So now I can come in here, I can see I've searched for cat images. I'm just going to close down that search bar there. So here's our first cat image. Again, very easy to drag in and that we can drop that on the page. But maybe not just cat images, maybe we want to make it a 4K image. Unsplash, a great resource for 4K images. All of our products are 4K. So it's nice to have a way to actually bring in a higher quality content that you can actually bring even to the center of the screen and resize very easily just using those pinch and zoom tools. Then if you maybe wanted to make it a little more interactive, a little more engaging, you then have tools like our little movement GIFs just here. You're also able to search for YouTube videos and Pixelboy for videos if you want to bring those in just from dragging over to your screen. And as I mentioned before, then you start to get into AI as well. So if we wanted to create AI, which I'm not going to do today just because it does take some time to render that image, we can also generate an image in there. So a very capable, very strong whiteboard experience with a lot of tools and a lot of functionality while still remaining that simplistic approach. So let's come out of the content section. What else can we do with LYNX Whiteboard? So one of my favorite features, and I like to show, is that actually What if you want to have side by side? So we saw in one of the other videos that you can do a split screen on the Clevertouch simply by having two applications running at the same time. But in my opinion, LYNX Whiteboard takes it to that step further. So coming down to the little hamburger menu in the bottom left, we can do a split screen. We can go to a center split. And what's different here is not only do we have a whiteboard on either side, we're using LYNX Whiteboard on either side, we have all of the software, all of the tools, all of the same functionality on the left-hand side with my whiteboard I've been creating. But what if on the right-hand side, I want to open something like a Smart Notebook file or Google Slides or a PDF, for example. So let's say we open, let's do a Halloween facts and quiz. So we can see it's some of the content you can actually create in LYNX Whiteboard with just a little more time. So we're just going to give that a minute to download. And then we'll be able to open that lesson side by side to our whiteboard. So for example, now that that's loaded, we can see we have our lesson on the right hand side, our whiteboard on the left, and we can move through these independently as we need to. So I class this as true split screen working, where students can work independently, a teacher and a student, or even two people can work professionally on either side using LYNX Whiteboard. But let's say we actually want to take a look at this lesson that's been created by one of our Boxlight solution specialists, someone with a little bit more sort of in the curriculum and content creation area. So what we do is go back down in the bottom left, we're going to go back into that split screen, we're going to go no split. And again, one of the great things here is I haven't lost anything, all of my tabs stay open along the top. But the way LYNX Whiteboard works is you have this creation mode, so we're creating these presentations, even though this one is done. So when we're happy with that, okay, and we can see that if I was to click on things here, I can actually move things around, but I don't want that necessarily when I'm going through the lesson, just like I wouldn't want that with Google Slides. So the way LYNX Whiteboard works is down in the bottom left, you just come down and you'll see an option to start presenting. So now we're going in that, again, it simplifies that toolbar, it gives me access to all of my pen tools that I would see. And now I've really made this presentation interactive. So for example, with this one, Trick or Treat, It's Halloween, I can click down into the bottom right hand corner and I can actually start to move through an activity just by linking pages together with LYNX Whiteboard. So here's my contents. Let's say we wanted to do something. Why are pumpkins special? Well, let's click on our Trick or Treat, which is actually the wrong one, which I apologize for, but fortunately, there is a little link so we can go back. So I think we're going to go, why are pumpkins? Because I think someone has moved this down slightly. So why are pumpkins special? If we wanted to, we still have the pen tools, we can still work on this. And what's great with LYNX Whiteboard being cloud-based is not only do you have all this, and we can then, once we're finished, we can save it as a PDF, we can save it as a LYNX lesson directly into a cloud drive, so that lesson is available for others. We can save it that way. But we could also, if we wanted to, come down to, after we hit stop presenting, we can come down to this hamburger menu, and we can hit this icon here that says share and print. And what we're then able to do is bring up a QR code. Because LYNX Whiteboard is cloud-based, it doesn't matter what network they're on, you'll also be provided a link. So you can actually then share that lesson or share that activity with students, with other people, with people who have come in for a meeting, for people who are just whiteboarding. They can share that and take that away as needed. So without spending too much time going through each and every feature, LYNX Whiteboard is an extremely powerful whiteboard solution with a lot of capability, a lot of easy to use tools. But there is one final part that I do like to show with LYNX Whiteboard as well. So if I come back to the dashboard, which I can always access in the bottom left hand corner, that final thing I like to mention is the LYNX activities. So from that dashboard, I can actually click on the LYNX activities. So we can see it's going to take me straight into those. And these are some of, because I'm within my account, these are some lessons and activities that I've pre-created. But I just want to show you that you also have the option to create things, although there's quizzes, there's maps, there's games, there's activities, there's spinning wheels. But if I want to add a new activity, create an activity from scratch, what I do is hit the Add Activity button just here. And I can go through and see all of the available activities, whether it be more game-based, whether it be sort of simpler activities, all the way down to the PhET scientific simulations. So just to show you how quick and easy it could be to create an activity with LYNX Whiteboard, for example, let's just do something like a spinning wheel. So I want to add a spinning wheel, I'm going to click on that. It's going to take that and it's going to add it into my cloud account, into my account as an activity I use often. So now I can go in and I can start to add the names of the people I want in my spinning wheel. Like so. Okay, so I've added one there. I've got example 2. I'm not going to spend too much time changing this right now. Spinning wheel. And if I wanted to, I can actually use some additional text or tools just there. Once I'm happy with this, I can hit save. Okay, it'll now add into my account and take me into that activity so I can spin. And again, if we had the volume turned up on this particular panel, which we don't today, then you would also hear some animations and noises as we go through that spinning wheel. Down in the bottom left, we have menu, so we can hit exit activity. And this whole time, this is opened in a browser because it's cloud-based, but if we close that, and we can use our navigation around the panel just here to go back into LYNX Whiteboard with just a couple of clicks. And all of my lessons and activities that I've been creating are still there and ready for me to continue.